couple of new parts, drill some holes. Not the most accurate drilling in the world, it has to be said.
Carbon bonnet is like a sail. So dodgy when it's windy.
Drilling the holes. Can't really mess it up, can you? Ruined the bonnet. Maud is currently at work with a broken clutch cable. Dad's Mk1 Escort. It is loads better.
Hello and welcome to this video. I'm Marcus Hayes and today I'm heading over to my other garage to spend some time on Esther, my ST170 powered Mk1 Escort. Those of you that watched the last video will know that she now has her new ST170 engine fitted. There's a couple of jobs that don't involve the engine that I might actually crack on with today. I've also got a couple of new parts to show you. So yeah, I'm just going to make my way to the garage and then decide exactly what I'm going to be doing when I get there. I do have to make a couple of stops on the way. Need to pick up some grub because my beautiful girlfriend Kat is working today, so I definitely won't be getting a delivery. I've actually got a massive jerry can in the back that I'm going to fill up so that I can fill up Esther's tank as well as put some in my dad's Mk1 as well because that's really low. But yeah, other than that, I'll catch up with you when I get to the garage. Can I have 2 sweet chili chicken wraps, please? Thank you. Thanks. Alright, 20 litres of Shell V-Power in the jerry can, another few litres in Maud's tank, and a Costa coffee. Alright, let's get to the garage. Alright, so we've made it to the garage and I've got Esther out in the sunshine. First thing I want to talk about today is the water rail fitting on the back of the engine there. Loads of you in the comments of the video before last were saying that I didn't put enough PTFE tape on the threads, and you're absolutely right. But I am thinking of changing that arrangement on the back of the engine for the heater hose. I think what I'm going to do is get a 90-degree bit of silicone hose that's 16mm inner diameter both ends, and then just get another fitting that's 1/2 inch BSP to 16mm outer diameter to go onto that hose, and then I'll just cut the hose to the perfect length to suit. Now I know that the retro Ford water rail actually has a sort of reducer that you can screw in to that part of the water rail to restrict how much water is actually going through the heater. So I think it's going to be better to have 16mm inner diameter hose going all the way from the water rail to the heater rather than having the 19mm fitting that I've got on there now, just to restrict the flow a little bit. So if the PTFE does fail on that fitting, then you know I'll switch over to that new idea. Before I crack on with anything today, I want to show you a couple of new parts, and one of them is this Odyssey race battery. I'm hoping that that battery will have a little bit more oomph than the old battery that I had. I've also bought this proper alloy battery bracket for it, which has been powder coated black, so yeah, that looks really good. And I'm thinking I'm just going to riv nut this to the inner wing. I'm going to use 4 or maybe 6 riv nuts with bolts. I'm not 100% sure whether I should be using riv nuts to hold a battery in, but if any of you guys can tell me if that is or isn't safe in the comments, that'd be great. Now, unfortunately, the way that I'm going to have to mount this bracket means that I'm going to have to lift it up slightly so the battery isn't actually sitting on the tray, just to get it over this lip here where the battery tray is welded to the inner wing. But you know, it's not exactly square in that corner anyway, so even if I was to sort of, you know, cut the bottom of this bracket off so that I could mount it, you know, so it's sitting on the battery tray, I still don't think that would be ideal. I think if I do lift it up and screw it to the inner wing like that, it's going to mean that the battery's held in more square. Later on, I may consider moving the battery to the boot, or, you know, in the cabin behind the passenger seat or something, but for now, I'm just going to bolt it in the engine bay. There is one other small part that I bought for Esther recently, and that is a new gear knob. I never had a gear knob for the RX-8 gearbox at all, and it's a bit of a weird thread. It's M10 by 1.25 rather than M10 by 1.5, so there was a little bit less choice in terms of gear knob. I did want to get a nylon one, and I was looking on Motorsport Tools, but in that particular thread, they were all sold out. There is actually one other new part that I received recently that was actually given to me by someone, which I won't be fitting yet, but I'll show you that now. So what I have here is a billet eccentric cam belt tensioner from IK Engineering. Now this was actually bought for me by a guy called Joshua who lives in the United States. He was unable to order 2 of these, one for him and one for his mate, from IK Engineering, and he asked me to help. He basically sent me the money up front for me to order 3 pulleys, and I sent 2 to him in America, and he let me keep the other one. So yeah, massive thanks to you, Joshua. I really appreciate the free pulley. Now I won't be fitting this yet, because what I want to do is I want to get a brand new cam belt for this engine. I've also already got a brand new camshaft bolt and a brand new crankshaft pulley bolt, and yeah, I'm going to fit all those parts together. So I've decided that the first thing I'm going to do today is actually mount this bracket to the inner wing and get the new battery fitted. I'm going to mount this bracket to the inner wing with 3 of these Allen keys each side, and I've marked it out. I thought I might as well try and do it nice and even and neat, seeing as it's going in Esther. So yeah, next job, drill some holes. Always end up with a load of excess material when I'm drilling. Just going to try an oversized drill bit just to get rid of that. Not looking too shabby. Some tape there, some tape there. I've just noticed that this side of the bracket is actually going to have to sit higher than I was thinking because of the shape of the inner wing. If you look at the gap here between the bracket and the inner wing, you can see there's a gap, whereas if I lift this up a bit, you can see that sits a bit more flush. So if you look from this angle, instead of it sitting like that, it's going to have to sit like that. The front one isn't too bad. As I say, there's going to be a gap at the bottom anyway, so yeah, I think I'll mount it like that. I'm going to use this drill bit to mark it, and it's just the right size that it just pokes through with just the point, so that'll tell me exactly where the centre of these holes are. That's the plan anyway. Alright, that is the holes all marked. I think I should just check though that I can actually get into these ones with a drill bit. Got me a right angle gizmo on the drill. If I've got a short enough drill bit, I should just about be able to get in there. I suppose I can always go through with a pilot hole this side and then drill back from under the wing. Alright, so to use these M6 Allen key bolts, this is the riv nut for it, and I need to drill a 9mm hole for this to pass through before I crimp it with a tool. I can't actually find a 9mm drill bit. I've got plenty of 8mm ones, but I think I'm going to use this thing after I've done a small pilot hole to get it up to 8, and then if I can't find a 9mm one, I'll just have to get an 8mm drill bit and wriggle it in the hole. Not the most accurate drilling in the world, it has to be said. Alright, so I think I found a 9mm drill bit. It's actually worn off, so I can't see the number on it, but it's definitely smaller than a 10 and bigger than an 8. Drill through from the other side. I didn't go through this one with an 8. Alright, so the riv nut now fits in those holes. Still quite a nice tight fit, which is good. The reason I'm only doing the 2 middle ones is because I want to finish those and then see how inaccurate the other 4 holes are, just in case I need to tweak the position of them a bit before I've actually bored them out to the right size. So yeah, now we'll get the riv nut tool out. This is definitely not a tutorial on how to use a riv nut gun. I always have to sort of remind myself how to do it, and I'm never sure that I'm actually doing it right, but essentially you're putting this in the hole, and then when you use the tool it distorts this so that it's a tight fit in the hole, and then you've got a thread to put a bolt in. So hopefully I'm doing this right. So we now have 2 riv nuts in place. I think I'm going to trial fit the bracket now. Might as well try it with the battery, I suppose. Alright, so she's bolted in, and as I expected, these other holes aren't accurate at all. I think I'm going to enlarge the hole in the bracket here, which will allow that to go up, and then it looks like the other two holes then might actually line up, so that will benefit that as well. And around this side, holes don't look that bad, they might be alright. Yeah, I'm going to adjust this and then see where we're at. Alright, so I've made a few adjustments, enlarged that hole in the bracket like I said, and I've also shaved a little bit off the bracket at the bottom there, and it sits a lot better. Now I think I'm just going to have to poke a marker through and then just try and relocate the hole once the bracket's out of the way. You can see now from the marker, the pen, whereabouts I need to move the hole. Alright, so I read somewhere that you're supposed to put, you know, some sort of cushion in between the battery and the bracket. So I've got this sort of foam stuff, which comes on a roll, and it's sticky back. So I'm just going to stick some of this on the corners, and that should be sweet. The great thing about these batteries, you can tip them upside down on their side. Doesn't matter, you can mount them however you want. Obviously I'm mounting mine upright, but 4 pieces that length will be perfect. And I've used bolts that are a bit longer than they need to be, because then it means I can undo the bracket and slide the battery in without having to remove the bracket every time. Alright, there it is. It took way longer than I was expecting, but the Odyssey race battery is now mounted with its proper bracket. Quite happy with how it's come out. I do need to sort out the battery terminals. These are just like a M6 bolt rather than, you know, a round post like a normal battery has. So yeah, I need to adapt my battery wires to suit. One thing that's worth noting is that I put this earth strap here so that it'd be hidden, because obviously the other battery would have hid that, but now it is on show again. Still looks better than having it here, which is where it was before I had the slam panel painted. But one thing I noticed today is that I actually already had a hole there that I could have used for this. And when I drilled that hole, the car was in the garage, so you know it would have been sort of shaded. So that's the excuse I'm going with. But that was also the day that I discovered the problems with Esther's old engine. So that unnecessary hole wasn't the worst thing that happened that day. But yeah, I guess I'll just add a normal ring terminal to these wires and to these wires, and then they can be bolted down with these. I'm actually quite happy that the battery tells you what torque to do these bolts up, because obviously with them being M6, you know, very easy to over tighten them and ruin the terminals. So yeah, I'll definitely be using the torque wrench to do them up. Alright, so I've got these ring terminals that should be suitable for those battery wires. This one seems like it's only barely long enough, so rather than cutting this off, I'm actually going to try and open that up and get the wires out, just to retain as much length as I can. Like that. I'm sure there's a proper tool to crimp this, but all I've got is good old-fashioned mole grips. Bend this down slightly. I've just got to do the same again on this one. Alright, so that is the battery fully fitted now. I've also hooked up the earth wire to the engine block there. And yeah, job's a good one. Definitely looks a lot more smart than those normal batteries. And I've saved a few kilos off of Esther's curb weight. I think what I'm going to try and do now is fit Esther's bonnet. I am on my own. I've never fitted the bonnet on my own before, but I'll have a go, and then we can see if the holes that I elongated further quite recently have made any difference in terms of getting the bonnet to align properly. Carbon bonnet is like a sail. So dodgy when it's windy. Oh my God. I'm gonna go through the painstaking task of trying to align this off camera, and I'll see you afterwards and we'll see how close I can get it. Alright, so I've been messing about with it for ages now, and I think it's as good as it's going to get. The shut line is even all the way along. It's not sitting too high in the corners. It is slightly higher than I would like, but the way it is at the moment, it doesn't really catch on the back. You can hear a slight squeak. I think if I was to remove the tape, it actually wouldn't rub. If I go any lower, it will rub. Interestingly, if I lift it up and then put it down, there's a bit of play here. You have to sort of push it. This side, in terms of the height, is a lot better, but yeah, it sort of curves up around this area. Once you've put the pins in as accurately as you can sort of tweak it by, you know, bending this rod forward, back, or side to side. So maybe once I've done it, I'll be able to bend this forward so that when you actually latch the bonnet down, it kind of pulls it forward slightly, and it might bring that down. But yeah, it's never going to fit as good as a metal bonnet. So I think that's as good as it's going to get. I think it's about time I started thinking about drilling the holes. Now this is basically a threaded bar. At the top of it is a hole there where the pin from the aero catch goes into. And yeah, this bar has basically got a nut this side and the other side, locking it in a position so it's adjustable up and down. So I'm going to raise that pin up so that when I close the bonnet, it will leave a mark where I need to drill the hole. I'll probably put like a dab of paint on it or something, just so that it leaves a really clear mark. Yeah, I think that'll be high enough now if I just lock this nut there. Yep, a blob of silver paint. And there's the mark. So now we've got the nerve-wracking job of drilling through a very expensive carbon fibre bonnet. But, you know, realistically the hole's going to have to be a lot bigger than that anyway, so you can't really mess it up, can you? And there you go, you can see the pin through that hole. The next job is to make the hole big enough for that pin to poke all the way through. Alright, so I'm at the same stage on the other side now. I've also sheeted up the engine with its own sheet and then put this other sheet on top as well, just to minimise the carbon fibre dust going everywhere. Should make tidying up afterwards a lot easier. Now what I'm going to do now is tighten up these pins. They might not be at the perfect angle that they're going to be once it's all properly installed, and then I'll start thinking about where exactly this sort of teardrop shaped hole needs to be. Try and do this as accurate as I can. Alright, so I've got the aero catch sitting in roughly the right place. You can see the pin there that's poking through the bonnet is lined up with the pin that goes into the hole that's in the top of that red pin. So yeah, that's roughly where it needs to sit. So I think what I'm going to do is draw around this, and then I'll draw another mark just inside that, and then that will be where I go to before I sort of test fit it again. Alright, so I think it's ready to drop in now. I need to lower this now to the correct height, and then it should sit in there. I'm not going to drill the holes to mount this until I've got the other side to this stage, because how it is at the moment, you've got a little bit of choice in terms of exactly where you're going to mount it. Now on the underside, the bolts go through and screw in to these nuts that are in this plate. This plate is going to have to sit something like that, which means I'm going to have to do a lot more grinding around here just to make space for this. The main sort of bit that you need to get, you know, as accurate as you can is this bit, and although I haven't done it perfectly, I've done it and I haven't ruined the bonnet, so happy days. Now I've got a lot of clearing up to do, and it's getting really cold around here and I'm absolutely starving, so I'm going to continue this video
at some point next week, because I'm going to be coming around here on my brakes to finish the aero catches and probably make a start on bolting some more bits to the engine. So I'll continue this video then. See you in a sec. Hello, right, so a good few days have passed since the last clip, and today I'm around the garage on my break. I've been round here a few times already this week, and I've been spending some time on Esther. Now, before I bring you up to speed with her, I want to give you a little bit of an update on the other two Escorts in my life. First of all, Maud, my Maud Mark II, is currently at work with a broken clutch cable. But in the meantime, I'm obviously using my girlfriend Kat's plastic Fiesta as my daily. Now, with my dad's Mark III Escort, I haven't actually done any more on this rear arch since the last time we saw it on the channel, but I've actually been speaking to my mate Rob, and I think I'm just gonna leave it where it is and let him take the job on and finish it for me. I like to think that I've at least given this passenger side rear arch a good head start, and Rob was saying that he might be able to get the Mark III in within the next couple of weeks or so. Those of you who have been watching my videos will remember that the Mark III was running really rough when we dropped it off to CLUMPFAB. But now that I've put a load of fuel in the tank, it is loads better. Onto Esther, my Mark I. As you can see, both of the aero catches are now fitted into the bonnet. Last time you saw that I'd sort of cut out the main hole so that the top of this aero catch could fit this side. The next thing I did was get this side to the same stage, and then I sort of orientated them so that they were both even, and then I drilled the holes for the bolts. I was then able to see exactly where this sort of spreader plate was going to sit, and yeah, it just needed a little bit of this inner frame cutting away and a little bit cutting away there as well. I have cut away more than I needed to. Before you sort of screw it all together, this is really flimsy, but yeah, with that on there, it is really rigid. And yeah, the same that side. Fitting those aero catches was something I definitely wasn't looking forward to doing. It's only the second time that I've fitted a pair of those. The other time was when I fitted the same aero catches to the fiberglass bonnet. But yeah, with this expensive carbon fiber bonnet, I was a bit nervous doing the job, but it's all done now, so happy days. I'm sure it's not everyone's cup of tea having Olympic blue aero catches, and the amount of hassle I had to go through to dismantle the aero catches and paint them, I'm probably going to be the only person that ever bothers painting their aero catches. So I also have spent a bit more time this week bolting stuff to Esther's new ST170 engine. The inlet manifold is now fully torqued up, and I've got the coil pack mounted underneath. The exhaust manifold is also now torqued up, and I've got the water rail fitted. Today I fitted the starter motor. I was going to fit the alternator and the radiator, but one of the next things I want to do is fit a new cam belt. I've already removed the front cover here and the little plastic one down the bottom there, and in fact the engine is actually at TDC. I've got the locking tool in the back there and the other one screwed into the block, so yeah, it is ready to change the cam belt, and that's going to be the very next thing I do. The reason I didn't fit the alternator bracket is because it fouls this little gizmo here, which is basically what I'm going to use to test the fuel pressure. The fuel pressure gauge screws into there. I'm not going to leave this on permanently, so once I've done my checks, I'll take this back off, and then there'll be space to fit the alternator bracket. I might actually order one of these, but a 45-degree one, so that in future, if I want to test the fuel pressure, I won't need to, you know, dismantle anything to do that. Judging by all the comments and messages that I've been receiving recently, I know that loads of you guys are really eager to see this thing running. And so am I, but I think, you know, I need to take my time with this and make sure I get everything right before I even try and start the engine up. So that is where I'm at the moment. Fingers crossed in the next video we'll be able to hear Esther's new ST170 run for the first time. But if you thought this video was any good, please do give it a thumbs up and a share. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Click subscribe to keep up to date with all my future uploads, and check the links in the description to my social media and my website. I'll also leave my email address down there for anyone who wants to contact me. Those of you who've been asking about the new clothing that you've been seeing me wearing, I will be releasing it very soon, and I'll let you know in a video when I'm ready to release it. Other than that, huge thanks to each and every one of you for your continued support of my channel. Until next time, thanks for watching.